Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the International Research Webinar Series 1 with the topic of computer science. Thank you for joining this webinar. This event is held in collaboration of Sunan Ampel, Surabaya with Universiti Teknologi Perlis Branch, Malaysia. Alhamdulillahirrahmanirrahim. Wabihi nasta'inu ala waddin wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. The Excellency Rector UIN Sunan Ampel Surabaya, Profesor Masdar Hilmy Ph.D. The Excellency Rector Universiti Teknologi Perlis Branch, Profesor Dr. Haji Khudzir bin Haji Ismail, the Honorable Deputy Rector of Research, Industry, Community, Alumni and Entrepreneurship Division of UITM Perlis Branch, Associate Professor Dr. Suhor Sanim bin Mohammad Fauzi, the Honorable Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology of UIN Sunan Ampel Surabaya, Dr. Evi Fatimatur Rusydiyah, the Honorable Vice Dean of the Faculty Science and Technology UIN Sunan Ampel Surabaya, the Honorable Head of the Department of Mathematics UIN Sunan Ampel Surabaya, Aris Fanani M.Com, the Honorable all speakers of this webinar, Dr. Muhammad Hafiz Ismail and Dian Cerini Novitasari and.Con, the Honorable all moderators of this webinar, Dr. Rusydiyah Ahmad and Dr. Abdullah Hamid. And of course, unforgettable of the all participants, ladies and gentlemen. Alhamdulillah, pray and praise to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala because of the blessing and mercy to attend and participate in this international research webinar in good condition. Salawat and greetings to the Prophet Muhammad. Hopefully, on the last day we will get his intercession. Ladies and gentlemen, here I am Junior Farida as Master of Ceremony, will explain the agenda of this webinar. The first is opening. The second is singing the national anthem of Indonesia and Malaysia, Indonesia Raya and Negaraku. The third, welcome remarks from Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology UIN Sunan Ampel Surabaya. The fourth, welcome remarks from the Rector Universiti Teknologi Perlis Branch. The fifth, welcome remarks from Rector UIN Sunan Ampel Surabaya. The sixth, praying. The seventh, the main agenda, presentation from all speakers and accompanied by questions and answers. Ladies and gentlemen, the first agenda is opening. Let us open this event by reading Basmalah together. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The second agenda is singing the national anthem of Indonesia and Malaysia, Indonesia Raya and Negaraku.
Kepada Sang Merah Putih, hormat! Kang!
Thank you very much. The following agenda is welcome remarks from Dean of the Faculty of Science and Technology, UIN Sunan Ampel, Surabaya, Dr. Fatimatur Rusydiyah. The Honorable Dr. Effie, the time is yours.
Oke, thank you Bu Yuniar. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirrabbilalamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asyrafil anbiya wal mursalin. Sayyidina wa maulana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in amma ba'du. The Excellency Rector UIN Sunan Ampel Surabaya, Profesor Masdar Hilmy, S.Ag, M.A, Ph.D. The Excellency Rector Universiti Teknologi Mara, Perlis Branch, Profesor Dr. Haji Khudzir Haji Ismail. The Excellency all Vice Deans, Science and Technology Faculty, Head and Secretary of the Department of Mathematics, Science and Technology Faculty, UIN Sunan Ampel, Surabaya. The Excellency all speakers of the International Research Webinar Series 1 with the topic of computer science, and the Excellency all the participants in this Zoom meeting. I hope all participants healthy and safe and getting blessing from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Welcome to the International Webinar on Computer Science. It is one of collaboration between UIN Sunan Ampel Surabaya, Indonesia, and Universiti Teknologi Mara, Perlis Branch, Malaysia. We are very proud to organize this agenda. I thanks to Rector UIN Sunan Ampel Surabaya for always supporting us, especially in this moment. It is very important for improving our faculty. And I thank to Rector Universiti Teknologi Mara, Perlis Branch, Profesor Dr. Haji Khudzir Haji Ismail, who give us chance to collaborate with this university. The participants is among 200 persons from Indonesia and Malaysia. I'm sure that the webinar can empower us, especially for our students and lecturer and all participants to develop the knowledge. And of course, we are getting knowledge from the another university from Malaysia, and it is 1 point for initial capital for our accreditation. Thank you to the committee for organizing this activity well. And the last, welcome to the seminar. Hopefully it will be useful. Wallahul muwaffiq ila aqwamit thoriq. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you very much, Ibu Effie. For the next agenda is welcome remarks from Rector Universiti Teknologi Mara, Perlis Branch, Malaysia, Profesor Dr. Haji Khudzir bin Haji Ismail. The Excellency Professor Dr. Haji Khudzir, the time is yours.
Thank you, Mrs. Chairperson. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Excellency Professor Masdar Hilmy, the Rector, Universitas Islam Negeri, Sunan Ampel, Surabaya, Indonesia. Dr. Fatimatur Rusydiyah, the Dean, Faculty of Science and Technology, Universitas Islam Negeri, Sunan Ampel, Surabaya. Associate Professor, Technologist Dr. Syukur Sani Muhammad Fauzi, Deputy Research and Industrial Linkage, UITM, Perlis Branch. Respected speakers, committee members, participants, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all. Alhamdulillah, praise are to Allah, the merciful and the beneficent, by whose grace and blessing have enabled us to gather here between two countries, Malaysia and Indonesia. Thanks to the organizer for inviting me to give a speech, and I'm very grateful for having this collaboration program in our institution. And I'm very pleased to welcome you to the International Research Webinar, Computer Science Series 1, 2021. This special webinar is organized by the Faculty of Science and Technology, Universitas Islam Negeri Sunan, Ampel, Surabaya, Indonesia, and in collaboration with the Applied Computing and Technology Research Group, UITM, Perlis. Ladies and gentlemen, Alhamdulillah, I'm very proud to say that this international webinar provides a platform for both universities to promote, expand, and share the experience, knowledge, and expertise in the area of research in computer science. Through this program, the collaboration of universities are possible to develop international networks and be able to foster good relation between the collaborating universities. This helps both universities gain benefits to achieve the vision, the mission, and the objectives of the university. Furthermore, this international webinar has the potential to gather the interest and participation of many to be excellence, synergy, and integrity. I'm sure these programs helps both university for winning the high impact of research through a knowledge sharing, cohesive research ecosystem. Finally, both universities are able to strengthen the strategic networks with this collaboration. So I wish every single person here today will benefit from this webinar, regardless of the position in this campus. Again, I would like to welcome you to the International Research Webinar Computer Science Series 1 2021, and thank you especially to our respected speakers, the committee members, and presenters for your time and contribution. Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wa hidayah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and a very good day.
Waalaikumsalam.
Yes, very much. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Khudzir. Ladies and gentlemen, for the last welcome remarks will be delivered by Rector UIN Sunan Ampel, Surabaya, Indonesia, Professor Masdar Hilmy, Ph.D. The Excellency, Professor Masdar Hilmy, the time is yours.
Thank you very much. His Excellency, the Vice Chancellor, University of Technology Mara Perlis Branch, Professor Dr. Haji Khudzir Haji Ismail, Her Excellency, the Dean, Faculty of Science and Technology, Universitas Islam Negeri Sunan Ampel, Surabaya, Dr. Evi Fatimatur Rusydiyah, M.Ag, and all Vice Deans, the Honorable Distinguished Speakers, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning, everyone. May all of us stay safe and healthy in the middle of COVID-19 pandemics. First of all, on behalf of Rector of the State Islamic University of Sunan Ampel, Surabaya, let me extend our deepest gratitude and warmest welcome to all of you for your participation and contribution to this webinar. We do hope that this conference will benefit us a lot in the form of scientific and technological breakthrough and innovation and knowledge sharing among us. Last but not least, we expect that this partnership and collaboration between us will strengthen the academic tradition in the form of joint research and publication in the near future. I think that's all for now. Once again, thank you very much and enjoy your participation in the conference. May we are all healthy and happy. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much, Professor Masdar. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go to the main agenda of this webinar, we will pray so that the event will be successful and brings blessing for us. The praying will be led by Mr. Lutfi Hakim, M.Pd. The Honorable Mr. Lutfi Hakim, the time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Hamdan hamidin, hamdan syakirin, hamdan yuafi ni'amahu wa yukafi mazidah. Ya Rabbana lakal hamdu kama yanbaghi li jalali wajhikal karim wa 'azimi sultanik. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammadin walhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammadin tibbil qulubi wa dawaiha wa afiyatil abdani wa shifaiha wa nuril absari wa diyaiha wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallim. Allahumma ya Allah lakal hamdu syukra wa lakal mannu fadla wa anta rabbuna haqqa wa nahnu abiduka riqqa wa anta rabbuna lam tazal lidzalika ahla. Allahumma ya muyassira kull asir wa ya jabira kull kasir wa ya sahiba kull farid wa ya muqawwiya kull dhaif wa ya mughniya kull faqir wa ya ma'man kull khaif yassir alaina kull asir fa taysirul asir alayka yassir. Allahumma ya man la yahtaj ila al-bayan wa tafsir hajatuna ilayka kathir wa anta alimun biha wa basir. Iqdi ya Allah hawaijana hawaij ad-dunya wal akhirah wa hassil maqasidana maqasid ad-dunya wal akhirah. Allahumma ya Allah ij'al hadhihi al-ukhuwah baina jami'ah UIN Sunan Ampel Surabaya ma jami'ah UiTM Malaysia mulazimatan biridhaka wa rahmatik. Allahumma ij'al ya Allah jami'atuna madinatal ilmi ya'tuna ilayna an-nas rijalan wa ala kulli dhamirin ya'tina min kulli fajjin amiq. Allahumma ij'al ya Allah jami'atuna ma'muratan bil ilmi wal barakah, ma'muratan bit tullab wat talibat, ma'muratan bi ibadika salihin. Allahumma ya mujibas sa'ilin wa ya mujibad da'awat, istajib da'watana ya Allah kama istajabta du'a Sulaiman alaihi salam. Qala rabbi ighfirli wa hab li mulkan la yanbaghi li ahadin min ba'di innaka antal wahhab. Allahumma ya tawwab tub alaina innaka antat tawwabur rahim. Wa ya ghaffar ighfir dhunubana fa innaka ghafurur rahim. Wa ya fattah iftah qulubana futuhal arifin. Allahumma ya salam sallimna wal muslimin min afatid dunya wa syadidi qarana wa min fitnatil qabri wa adzabil akhirah. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzaban nar. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammadin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Bismillahil Fatihah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Bapak Lutfi Hakim. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go to the next agenda, let us capture this moment by taking pictures together. Please turn on the video camera. Okay. Give your best smile, please. 1, 2, 3. Okay, we have several slides and we don't know where you are in the slide. So keep smile until the photo session is finished. Thank you. The second slide. The third slide. And the fourth slide. Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, for the next agenda, we will enter the main agenda. It is an international research webinar series 1 with computer science. This event will consist of 2 sessions. The first session will present the speakers from UITM, Perlis branch, Malaysia, and will be guided by Dr. Rusydiyah Ahmad. For information, Dr. Rusydiyah Ahmad is a senior lecturer at Faculty of Computer and Mathematical Science, Universiti Teknologi Mara, Perlis branch, Malaysia. She received her degree of Doctoral of Philosophy in Information Technology from Universiti Utara, Malaysia. Dr. Rusydiyah is a member of the Sakura Science Club of Japan since 2016. Her area of expertise are software quality, software sustainability, software process and product model, and requirement engineering. She is a passionate researcher in software process and product quality and sustainability, and also software evaluation and certification. Her research are involving studying, designing, and evaluating a range of technologies, including communication, coordination, and software systems. Her research tends to span many disciplines of information technology, including computer science. And then the second session will present the speaker from UIN Sunan Ampel, Surabaya, Indonesia, and will be guided by Dr. Abdullah Hamid. For information, Dr. Abdullah Hamid is Secretary of the Mathematics Department, UIN Sunan Ampel, Surabaya. He is a Doctor of Educational Technology from the State University of Malang. So in addition, as Secretary of Mathematics Department, he was also given the mandate as a developer of learning media, educational technology at the Faculty of Science and Technology, UIN Sunan Ampel, Surabaya. All right, for the next session, we'll be guided by Dr. Rusydiyah Ahmad and Dr. Abdullah Hamid. The Honorable Dr. Rusydiyah Ahmad and Dr. Abdullah Hamid, the time is yours.
Thank you, Chairperson Ibu Yuniar.
Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning to all of you. First of all, I would like to welcome to all of our respected speakers, committee members, participants, and ladies and gentlemen. Alhamdulillah, thank you Allah with His bless we having this opportunity to gather here in this special collaboration program. Before we go through, let me introduce myself. I'm Rusydiyah Ahmad from Faculty of Computer and Mathematical Science, UITM, Perlis. So today I'll be responsible for hosting this presentation today. So I am pleased to welcome you to the International Research Webinar Computer Science Series 1 2021. Again, this webinar is organized by Universitas Islam Negeri Sunan Ampel, Surabaya, Indonesia, and Applied Computing and Technology Research Group, UITM Perlis. For your information, the Applied Computing and Technology Research Group focuses on the application of extensive knowledge in computing, such as software engineering, artificial intelligence, big data, Internet of Things, geographical information system for research and industrial projects. To achieve this goal, the group developed software, hardware, and state-of-the-art of the technological solution for a variety of domains, from commercial and industrial solution to the experimental evaluation. Ladies and gentlemen, now I am glad to introduce our special speaker from UITM Perlis, which is Associate Prof. T.S. Dr. Syukur Sani Muhammad Fauzi, aka Leader of Applied Computing and Technology Research Group. For your information, Associate Professor T.S. Dr. Syukur Sani Muhammad Fauzi is a Deputy Rector, Research and Industrial Linkage at UITM Perlis, and also a faculty member of Faculty of Computer and Mathematical Science, UITM Perlis. Dr. Syukur has received a diploma in Computer Science and Bachelor Science specializing in Information System Engineering from UITM Perlis, a Master of Science, Computer Science in Real-Time Software Engineering from the Center for Advanced Software Engineering, Universiti Teknologi, Malaysia. He then obtained his Ph.D. in Software Engineering from the University of New South Wales, Australia. His expertise in software engineering, mining software repository, software process, and big data. He has received more than 16 research grants, including internal and external grants. He has published more than 100 scientific publications and has won more than 50 medals at national and international exhibitions. So now we welcome our special speaker, Associate Prof. T.S. Dr. Syukur Sani Muhammad Fauzi, who will present. The title is Using Software Repositories to Investigate Socio-Technical Congruence in Software Engineering Project. You are welcome, Doctor. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rosita. Okay, allow me first to share the slide. Okay, Dr. Rosita, can you see the slide?
Yeah. Yes, Doctor.
Okay, thank you. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning to all of you, the Honorable Prof. Rector, UiTM Perlis Branch, the Honorable Prof. Rector, Universitas Islam Negeri, Sunan Ampel, the Dean of Faculty of Science and Technology, and all the committee members, and also all the participants. So I'm Syukor Sanim, Mohammad from Universiti Teknologi Madya Perlis Branch. First of all, I think it is indeed a great pleasure for me to be invited to give a talk in today's webinar, which is an international research webinar organized by Faculty of Science and Technology, Universitas Islam Negeri Sunan Ampel, and in collaboration with our Universiti Teknologi Madya Perlis Branch. I'd like to thank fellow collaborators, okay, of the Faculty of Science and Technology, UIN Sunan Ampel, for putting this joint webinar together, which I think can be used to offer a platform for the sharing of ideas and experiences for the betterment of our institution. So basically, I'm very proud to be part of today's webinar, and I believe personally, I think this webinar will be a starting point for our collaboration, okay, between these two institutions, and hopefully more initiatives will be put together in the near future, inshallah. So, all right, so I think collaboration among institutions of higher learning is basically a current trend. So, and the universities in around the world, okay, in various parts of the world, basically are encouraged to cooperate in different fields, such as in research, in teaching, okay, human resource development, technological innovation, and others. Thus, I believe today's webinar mark another milestone that can help to strengthen the relationship between UiTM Perlis Branch and also UIN Sunan Ampel. So this is just a brief background of myself. So I think Dr. Rusydiyah has already introduced the background of myself. Okay, so I don't think I need to focus it on. Okay, again, this is our university, UiTM, or Universiti Teknologi Madya. Okay, in short, okay, it is basically the Malaysia's largest institution of higher learning in terms of size, and also secondly in terms of the population. So basically we have campuses all around Malaysia, in every state of Malaysia. So basically we have expanded nationwide with 12 state campuses, okay, and 6 satellite campuses in Shah Alam, 11 state satellite campuses, and also 21 affiliated colleges. And we are supported by around 17,000 workforce, okay, and we offer 500 academic programs, and basically we are home to some 175,000 students, okay, in our system. So this is our branch, our campus, which is basically we are at Universiti Teknologi Madya Perlis Branch. This is one of the campuses, one of the UiTM campuses, okay, which is located in Arau, Perlis, which is a state in the northern region of Malaysia. Okay, it's just we are very close to the border of Malaysia and also Thailand, where it only takes around 30 minutes to arrive to the border of Malaysia and also Thailand. And historically, we are the third oldest branch campus, and also the largest UiTM branch campus after the main campus in Inshallah. So we started with a very small campus. We only have, at the time in 1974, we only have around 258 students. Okay, and at that time we only offer one preparatory course and also 5 diploma program. And basically nowadays we are expanding to these 7 faculties. Okay, comprises from Faculty of Accountancy, Business Management, Architecture, Planning and Surveying, okay, Applied Sciences, Sports Science and Recreation, Plantation and Agrotechnology, and also Faculty of Computer and Medical Sciences. And okay, and currently we offer more than 30 academic program in UiTM Perlis, ranging from pre-diploma, diploma, bachelor degree, master's degree program, and also up until Ph.D. PhD program. So I think this has been touched or been informed by Dr. Rusydiyah about our group, okay, Applied Computing and Technology. So we are basically we are 7 of us in this group. Okay, this is myself. Okay, and then we also have Dr. Tajul. Okay, Dr. Nurul Ain. We also have Mr. Mohammad, Hafiz, Ismail, Mr. Ray, Adli GM Gining, and also we have Dr. Ruhala Maskat, and also we have Dr. Rusydiyah Ahmad in our group. Okay, so this has been informed by Dr. Rusydiyah. So okay, this is the list of our PhD students in our group, and also master's by research student in our group. And this is the list of our collaborators, ranging from University of Concepcion, Chile, up until Deakin University. Okay, and then in Malaysia we have University of Malaya, UTHM, UKM, UBSI, Sultan Idris, Universitas Erlangga also have a very close collaboration with us. And then Suska Riau in Riau, Universitas Islam Riau, and then Telkom University is the latest edition of our collaborators, and also University of Calcutta is also the latest edition of our collaborators, and of course UINSA Ampel also is one of our collaborators. Okay, this is just a summary of our group achievement. Okay, then we go to the topic that I used to that I need to give today. The title of today's topic is using software repositories to investigate socio-technical congruence in software engineering projects. So this is the outline of today's talk. Okay, we'll start with a research problem. We will take a look at what are the problems that exist in the literature, okay, that lead to the study, and then we are going to take a look at the research status quo. Okay, what are the things that exist in the prior literature, and then research gap, and then I think it's good for me to also to touch a bit about the definition of terms, because this research involve several new terms. Okay, since STC is one of the emerging or new field in software engineering, so that's why I believe it's good for us to also go through the terms like socio-technical congruence, what it is, connection requirement, actual connection, and etc. And then next we proceed with research goal and question. Okay, the method on how we conduct the research, and of course finally the result and discussion, and of course finally the conclusion. Okay, right. So we can say that nowadays the development environment has evolved to become more complex and also distributed. Okay, we can see the shift of the development environment. Okay, previously we only developed software in a collaborative environment. Okay, but nowadays it has shifted into more distributed development, and also has shifted to more global software development, or GSD. So this basically has contributed to a very large number of developers working together with a large common set of highly interdependent artifacts and also interdependent of tasks. So the underlying technical dependencies among artifacts and tasks basically create what we call social dependencies among the team members, which we believe that it necessitated coordination in the team. And a study have shown that the lack of proper connection, okay, can be a major cause of software defects and also a problem. Okay, so this is the state of affairs, okay, that existed previously in the literature. So you can say that developer coordination is important, okay, because it is directly related to development performance, and most of the literature suggests that most of the literatures are strongly emphasized on technical dependencies and also explicit coordination, and there is an increased recognition of the importance of social dependencies and also implicit coordination. And STC, or Socio-Technical Congruence, is one of the major measure of coordination, where it basically used to recognize social and technical dependencies, but only focuses on explicit coordination. And you can say that based on the literature, we can say that the implicit coordination is underrepresented, and the group awareness basically embodies many aspects of implicit coordination. So, so basically, the literature suggests that one method that can be used to measure coordination and also to capture the dynamism, the dynamism of social and technical dependencies is known as socio-technical congruence. So here, STC can be defined as a fit, as a fit between coordination requirement, established by the dependencies or interdependencies among tasks, that need to be completed by the developers, and also the actual coordination activities carried out by the engineers or by the developers in the software development project. So although recent work on STC basically suggests the alignment between AC, actual coordination, and coordination requirement is positively related to performance, but you can say that there is still a gap exists in the existing current STC method. So firstly, current STC method only conceptualize a small part of coordination, mostly as an explicit coordination. And then the current work only conceptualize explicit coordination as email interaction, mailing list, and then from the messenger, and etc. So this conceptualization are not complete. Basically, it's because explicit coordination is not even necessary for coordination. This is based on the literature. And then you can say that the group awareness is a recognized theory. So we have one theory which is known as group awareness that appears to benefit coordination because it can help the group members to coordinate both explicitly and also implicitly. So therefore, viewing the software developers coordination from a group awareness perspective can offer the potential to include a more balanced view of coordination as involving both explicit and also implicit coordination. And secondly, currently, STC method is not widely evaluated in the context of the SE project. So it put us uninformed about the applicability of STC in another context of development. So thus, for the purpose of this research, we are considering group awareness as an additional conceptualization, and also will further investigate the impact of STC in other contexts of software engineering project. So this slide shows some of the definition of terms used in this research. So coordination here is divided into two types, which are explicit and also which are explicit and implicit. Right, so as you can see from the slide, explicit coordination is a set of mechanisms employed by a team for the purpose of managing dependencies, and implicit is synchronization of members' action based on unspoken assumption, about what others in the groups are likely to do. And group awareness here, this is referred as understanding of the activities of others. And then socio-technical congruence, as we mentioned before, is a measure of the match between the coordination requirement and actual coordination, carried out by the developers. This is the definition of coordination requirement. It refers as a relationship that indicate that two people should coordinate based on their task assignment. For example, here you can see two or more people working on different tasks, but dependent on common files, and components, need to coordinate with each other. So based on this figure, okay, this shows that the task assignment step, okay, so some of these tasks have dependencies, okay, as we can see here from the files here, okay, basically have dependencies. So it implies that the people, okay, these people, okay, it implies that so these people who work on this task, okay, this is the task, okay, we should also coordinate. So in this figure, so it shows that the person C, okay, this is the person C, should coordinate with person B, okay, as task B, okay, this is the task B, task 3 is dependent on task 2, and person A and also person B, okay, should also coordinate with each other because person A is assigned to both task 1 and task 2. So in our research, task here is represented by an MR or modification request assigned to the developers, where each MR has an affected source code files and also software component. So this is the definition of term for actual coordination or AC. So as shown in this figure, okay, so it implies that the people, okay, these are the people who work on tasks that have dependencies should also communicate, okay, in order, so meaning that in order for the person A, person B, and person C to complete the task, they basically need to communicate with each other in order to know what basically happened, what are the changes that basically occurred or happened in each of the files. So in this figure 2C, it shows that person C should communicate to person B, okay, as task 3, okay, is dependent on task 2, and person A and person B also should communicate with each other because person A is assigned to both task 1 and also task 2. So the research goal, so we have 2 research goals here. So the first one is to verify the suitability of STC as a coordination measure, and then the second one is to extend STC by introducing explicit awareness coordination into the measure. So these are the 2 research questions. The first one is socio-technical congruence is a viable measure of developer coordination, and how can the STC be improved as a measure of developer coordination. So this is the brief method of each of the objective and also each of the research question. So basically you can say that we use or we employ mining software repository in order to dig or in order to study, okay, or in order for us to conduct this study. So in the first research question, we have performed an empirical study using open source software project development data, and also have applied mining software repository technique. And for second question, also where we revise the measure, we use the same data, and okay, basically we use the same data as in research question number 1. So this is the data set used for this study. So overall, we use 8 open source software projects, where, as we can see here, the number of tasks, okay, number of files, okay, number of tasks, number of files, and also total number of the developers are different. So for instance, the Mahat here, we have number of tasks here is around 489 tasks that need to be completed, and in 489, so the number of files that involved in this project, okay, is around 1,714 files, and in order to complete the project, it involves around 131 number of developers. So basically, it's quite a large project. Okay, we can consider this as a large project, a big project. So this is the detailed method of how we extract the data. So I'm not going to discuss more about this because it will take a lot of time. So, but basically, what we do is we used to extract the data again from a box repository report or modification request report. Okay. So once we extract or once we download or once we archive the data, then we need to chunk that into a few metrics table. Okay, so as you can see here, this is the where we chunk the data into a table, into a different matrices. Okay, the first matrices is people versus task, and then the second matrices is task versus file, and then the third matrices is task versus computer. So for instance, okay, like as has been introduced before in our previous slide. So how, for instance, basically should have the matrices table should have around 181 times 489. Okay, because P here is represented by the developer, and task here is represented by the numbers of tasks in the project. So P in Mahat is 131, and T in Mahat is 489. So you can imagine how big is the matrices table that we have for the project. Okay, and then we further develop the table into task versus file, task versus component, and etc. Okay, once we extract and once we convert the data into the table, then we do all the calculation using R scripting, and then we also capture the data from communication data from the secondary data set, and we also have to develop a matrices table, and this is where we need to compare the alignment or congruence between CR and also AC. Okay, and finally, in order to know the impact of STC into the project, so we have to do regression analysis or regression analysis. Okay, so this is how we do the computation. Okay, computing, how we compute the coordination requirement. Basically, we have, this is the formula that we use. Okay, so here we have coordination requirement is equal to task assignment time task dependencies time the transpose of task assignment. Okay, and then in order to compute the congruent, okay, so this is the equation that we use. Okay, so I don't want to touch more about the details of how we compute all these things, okay, because it will take a lot of time. So this is the brief model of our study. So to be specific, for the study, we performed an investigation for explicit coordination, where AC is measured using mailing list, and coordination requirement using files changed together. Okay. Right. Okay. Studies suggest software component also create dependency between developers. Okay, so for that reason, we have added component change together also as an additional measure for coordination requirement, and we still retain the task performance measure. Okay, which means the expected relationship should be negative. Okay, and then the use of registration time, okay, as a measure is not basically accurate for open source project. So this because the developers in OSS or open source project are not working full-time basis. Okay, this compared to previous study. Okay, where in the previous study they used to employ or extract the corporate development environment. So therefore we have included an LOC or line of code data, okay, and productivity as an additional measure for task performance. So this is the result, okay, for the empirical study. So the pre-literature on STC found a negative relationship between congruent and also task performance as a measure by modification by MR resolution time. But we can say that our results are bifurcated. Okay, bifurcated. Okay, in our first analysis using bug fixes only, 2 of our project, okay, replicate previous study result, which are Mahat and also Evo, but 2 do not. Okay, but 2 do not replicate the same result. Okay, and also show no consistent pattern. So in our next analysis using additional dependent variable and also additional measure, so it also shows the same result as in our first analysis. So this result was further verified by an analysis of all modification requests. Thus, okay, but not just bug fixes, as shown in the next slide. Okay. So subsequent analysis found that all results here were consistent and as expected, only for large project. Okay, which is here based on the literature, large project here is defined as a project with more than 50 developers. But the finding for small project, which is less than 50 developers, were inconsistent and also exhibited no obvious pattern. So an explanation was sought. Okay, we tried to further investigate to identify to get detailed explanation, and found in pro-research we suggest that connection and therefore STC is less of an issue in smaller teams. So okay, so congruent is a good predictor of performance in large teams. This is because as team size increase, the need for effective coordination is also increased in order to perform well, but not in small teams, because coordination is much easier in small teams. So this finding were further verified. We need to further verify this finding, where we include, okay, by including another 4 projects in the study, okay, which include 2 large projects and also 2 small projects. We showed consistent result with our hypothesis, is shown in the next slide. Okay, all right. So together, these 8 projects, okay, 4 large and 4 small projects, enhance the consistency of our findings. So thus, the key takeaway from this study is the studies only, okay, been conducted in us of focusing on large project only, as in their study, but the only study and also they only study 1 large project. Okay, so this is the extended SCC model applied to introduce another measure for implicit coordination. So as we can see here, we have added experience working together in order to conceptualize, okay, or to represent implicit coordination, but at the same time still retain a measure for CR and also a measure for task performance. So in this study, experience working together, okay, as the measure of actual coordination is measured, okay, as the number of times, okay, as a number of times developers have communicated and also perform changes with other developers in the previous or in the prior 6 months within the project. Or in other words, it is measured by counting the number of times that everyone on the team has worked together in order to complete the project. Okay, so this is the result. Okay, the finding from the regression analysis are consistent and as expected for all projects, not only just large projects. We indicate that higher implicit coordination congruence is associated with a decrease in resolution time. Okay, in resolution time here, and also line of code LOC change and increase in productivity, that is with task performance. Okay, you can say that in small project it is easy for the group members to have knowledge of who has expertise and develop habits regarding how things are done, but both of which can be gained from experience working together. Also, the literature suggests that implicit coordination is a predictor of performance in small project because it is sufficient to prevent coordination breakdown, which indirectly leads to an increase in performance. So this suggests that independently, implicit and also explicit coordination can both play a role in developers' coordination in software engineering project. Okay, so we have reached the conclusion of the study. So the nature of study, the nature of developer coordination and its measure has been investigated and also tested. So the goal of the study was to verify the suitability of STC as a coordination measure, and also to examine more closely the role of group awareness in developer coordination research in software engineering, and also to validate STC or socio-technical congruence as a measure of implicit group awareness coordination. So I think, I've reached to the end of my presentation. So I think that's all. Thank you. So, okay, I pass back the floor to Dr. Rusydiyah. Okay, thank you, Dr. Rusydiyah.
Thank you very much, Associate Prof. TS, Dr. Shukur, Sani Muhammad Fauzi. I hope you guys enjoy with this amazing presentation. So now we're gonna move to a Q&A session. So our speaker will answer the question shortly. If you have any question to ask and get more clarification on the related issues, so please do ask. Okay, by raise your hand actually to speak, or you just leave the question in the chat box. Inshallah, we try to answer the question. All right, so we're still waiting for the questions.
No question, I think. So, Rosita. Okay, it's okay, I think. So, if there is any questions, so they can email me or send any messages later on. Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right, there was no questions. Okay, so okay, while we're waiting for the question, let me conclude the important issues that has been discussed just now. Just now, Dr. Shukur has shared the knowledge and experience with us in measuring the developer coordination. So the importance of coordination between developers are highlighted, which is known to impact the development performance. The measuring developer coordination is complex, but being able to understand its role in the software engineering project, it requires an accepted way of measuring it. So one of the approach used to conceptualize and measure coordination is known as socio-technical congruence, as proposed by Dr. Shukur, which is this approach is the fit between required coordination and actual coordination measured as the proportion of actual coordination activities, okay, using the socio-technical congruence STC approach. So I think this approach is very interesting and very important to conceptualize and measure developer coordination. So based on the sharing just now, the STC approach is a useful predictor actually of the development task performance in software project. So even though this approach is still new and has been evaluated in only limited software engineering project, but we need to further investigate STC is as much required. So seems like we don't have any questions in the chat box. So I gonna say thank you to Dr. Shukur for the enlightening speech just now, and also the clarification on the related issues. So we hope all participants are satisfied with the presentation and the clarification just now. All right, so now we're gonna move to our second speaker. Let me introduce our second speaker is Mr. Mohammad Hafiz Ismail, as a senior lecturer from the Faculty of Computer and Mathematical Science. He is a member of Applied Computing and Technology Research Interest Group. He has experience in developing mobile application system in the industry. His research interests includes ubiquitous computing and implementing machine intelligence in pervasive computing environment. He has secured 5 national research grants and industrial grants. He also has experience in consulting in the development of mobile application projects for various government agencies. So now we welcome Mr. Mohammad Hafiz Ismail, who will present. The title is Generative Adversarial Network for Extracting Mango Features. Mr. Mohammad Hafiz, this is your turn. Thank you.
Thank you. Hopefully you can hear me from the microphone. So thank you to the Madam Chairperson, and then the respective dignitaries, as well as fellow lecturers and students from UIN Sunan Ampel, and also Universiti Teknologi Mara Cawangan Perlis. So so for today, I will be sharing my knowledge and then my research about generative adversarial network for extracting mango features. So this is just a little bit about what we have already learned during our course of research in UiTM Perlis. So this is part of the grant, internal grant that we done in UiTM Perlis, which we use this particular technique for extracting mango features. So during this sharing session, I will share you a little bit about introduction on generative adversarial network and also conditional generative adversarial network, that is CGAN, and then image-to-image translation, as well as the application of image-to-image translation in extracting mango defect features, which we use in our research on agricultural product in UITM Perlis. So first of all, I'd like to introduce about generative adversarial network to the audience. So the generative adversarial network is an implicit generative model which is used to generate samples or generates data. So we feed it we train it with thousands of data or data set, and then it can implicitly generate samples. So it could generate synthetic samples that that require minimal human supervision. So sometimes it is called a semi-supervised model. So the generative adversarial network is a part of deep learning network. It consists of 2 computing neural network, which is part of it is a generator, which generate candidate samples from noise, and then a discriminator, which evaluate the samples and then determine whether the samples that are generated by the generator would be acceptable or can be passed as a genuine article or not. So the goal for the basic of generative adversarial network is to generate synthetic samples which are fully indistinguishable from authentic data. So it should be free from human intervention, and it could generate fully synthetic data, which is fully indistinguishable. So even a human cannot distinguish between the synthetic data and authentic data. So this is the ultimate goal of generative adversarial network. So this is how the generative adversarial network would work. So it take a noise and then it would generate a peak data. So and then the discriminator would compare it with the real data, and then we would determine whether the data would can be passed as real or not. So if the data cannot be passed as real, if we use back propagation and then to feedback to the generator, and then the generator would improve the model, and then it would refeed back the discriminator with new and improved sample until the discriminator cannot tell whether the data generated is synthetic or not. So the cycle would repeat until it can produce the sample that would pass the discriminator checks. So this is some of the application of generative adversarial network, where we call it a select data set, where the real data set of faces, of celebrity faces, are fit into the discriminator and generator, train it, and then the generator would generate synthetic faces or a fake faces, and then it would determine whether the face can be distinguishable or not from the list of data set. So this is the data set of fake selects. So these are all the faces that are generated by the discriminator. So this is not the real person, but instead the faces that are generated by the computer, completely imagined by the generator. So even a human have hard time to distinguish whether this face is generated or synthesized, or it came from an actual person. So you can sometimes look at the picture and you find it, the face to be seems familiar to you, but it's actually it is completely generated by the computer. So some of the research also try to generate fake cats. So this is part of the generative adversarial network. So however, the generative adversarial network have limitation. So one of the limitation is that the generative adversarial network generate from random samples, and then you have very little control on what the end result is. So the generative adversarial network just take very little input beside the initial seed. Usually the seed are taken from random noise initializer. So you do not have other means of input in order to produce the desired output. So in essence, you have very little control over the output of generative adversarial network. So the solution is that further research have lead to the development of conditional generative adversarial network. So this is the example of conditional generative adversarial network. So in the conditional generative adversarial network, you will be given an input. So you can have an input of initial pictures of how the final output would look like. So you can guide the generative adversarial network to produce certain faces that you would desire to see on the output. So this is an example of conditional generative adversarial network. So instead of the adversarial network would produce the faces randomly, you can set certain parameters to the adversarial network to generate certain faces according to your guidelines. So this is the example. We have top style, middle style, and fine style. So The conditional generative adversarial network would generate sample based on hints or condition as an additional input, which is an improvement. And this condition can direct the data generation process, and at least it would generate the final output, which is according to the parameter or the condition that you have set. So thus we have some control over the generated sample. So this has led to another development, which is image-to-image translation. We call it as pix-to-pix. So what exactly pix-to-pix? So pix-to-pix is a type of conditional generation adversarial network architecture which generates synthetic image based on the parameters set by the input image. So the feature of the generated image are dependent upon the supplied input image, and then the output would be guided by this input image. So in essence, you can have a good input to produce a good output. So the output will be depending on the input. So whatever input that you put at the SIGAN would produce a good output. So, but if you put a bad output, it would also produce a bad outcome or bad output. So unlike other form of conditional generative adversarial network, in image-to-image translation or peak-to-peak, it works in pairs. So you have to train the input and output image in pairs. Okay, you have to train it together. So this is in contrast with the FakeSelect project, where they only have to train a single data set. So this one, the data set must be trained in pairs, the input and the output, so that it can have a guide, so that the generative adversarial network can have a guide on how it should produce the output based on the input that we have trained it in pairs. So here are one of the application of peak-to-peak conditional generation adversarial network. So let's say that if you have a satellite image, and then you input the satellite image on the system, then the gun can produce a roadmap automatically. So just from a satellite image, the computer or the peak-to-peak algorithm or model can produce a roadmap. Okay, you put a satellite image, and then it will be able to guess where the roads and the buildings are, and then it would generate a roadmap. So this is done fully automatically without human intervention, or it could also work with semi-supervised data set. So this is much more like the example that I've shown you before. So you input the data, and then it would create an output of the road. Okay, automatically. So human do not have to draw the map manually. So the computer can guess, and then it would generate it automatically and in a timely manner. Okay, fast. So this the advantage to work fast. So this is another example of peak-to-peak conditional generative adversarial network, where you can feed any form of satellite images, and it will produce a corresponding map. So this is the input and then the output. So this is one of the usefulness of peak-to-peak SIGAN. So another application of peak-to-peak SIGAN is it could also guess what the scenery would look like with lights. So it could translate or generate daytime photograph from nighttime photo. So here we have the input. Okay, driving a car during nighttime, and then it could guess what the road would look like during the daytime. So this is also done automatically with conditional generative adversarial network or SIGAN. So this is very useful for if you want to do simulation. And then it could also do reverse. If you have a photo of the daytime, it could also generate what the scenery would look like during the nighttime, and vice versa. Okay, this is also another example where you can pair black and white photo, and then you can colorize it, okay, automatically, sample, and so on. So this is how the gun would work. You need to train it in pairs. So you can have a data set of output and then the input, and then you feed it to the discriminator, and then we have to train the generator to produce the corresponding output, so that when you draw the outline or you can draw the shoes, it could produce or it could generate a synthetic shoes, okay, a synthetic image of a shoes that almost match the real data set, okay, except the color, but because the color are not produced in this outline, so it is almost acceptable. So why I'm showing you this example, because some research has been done in order to create a photo fit of the sketch. Okay, if you look at the detective stories or investigation stories, they have police detective that draw a photo fit of a criminal suspect and so on. Okay, you can fit this inside the gun, and then it could produce the output of a photograph of a person. Okay, and then this is the comparison between the ground truth and the output that is produced by the conditional gun. So it's from the input, and then it produces the output, and then this is the ground truth, which is almost the same as the ground truth, so the output of it. Okay, this is also a form of pick-to-pick C-gun. So an artist can sketch a concept product, okay, a concept photo of a product, and then the conditional gun can fill in the gaps and then produce the actual or actually the synthetic product, okay, the synthetic photo of the product and product. So it can be used in the classroom or in product development and so on. So so how do we use C-gun in our research? So C-gun and Mango as features attraction. So in what we have learned that we want to develop something that fast. So one of the advantage of C-gun between other methods such as segmentation is that C-gun can work fast. So it can compress the deep neural network, and then it could compress the neurons, and then it could produce the final output in an immediate manner. So it can compress you supply the input, it compress the input, and then produce a summary, or actually an output that are compressed in a quick and timely manner. So that's why we are attracted to use C-gun in our research, such as in Mango feature extraction. So I'm going to introduce you a little bit of our research interest here, particularly in our subgroup in UITM Perlis. So we've involved in a research which to determine the quality of the mango and mango assessment. So this is a sub-objective of our research. It's not full of our research, but rather a sub-objective. We want to determine the quality of the mango, and also want to ensure whether the mango has defects or not. So from what we have already gathered, and then when we have already interviewed the expert, and then when we gathered all the information, most of the experts have told us that the best way to determine mango defects and assess their quality is by visual examination. So we have to look at the mango, okay, to see that whether the skin of the mango is free from bruises or free from damage. So this is the first important factor that determine the quality of the harvest or quality of the mango. So the skin of the mango must be free of discoloration, or free from bruises, or free from physical damages. So imperfection on the mango is usually detectable based on the outer appearance of the fruit skin, and thus most of the customer or the market would reject the mango that have overly damaged skin. So this is what we are trying to do. We are trying to create a model that can automatically sort the mango based on the visual appeal of the skin. So it could be done robotically and automatically. So bruises are a clear indication of defects that can be caused by either impact damage, mechanical damage, or pest attack. So this is usually undesirable if you want to market the product, especially when you want to export the mango product to the overseas market. So the first step of the identification of mango defect is, of course, feature extraction of the skin features if you want to computerize the defect assessment. And then consequently, we also need to estimate the size of affected area to determine whether the quality of the mango is still acceptable to be marketed or not. So if the size of affected area is too large, then the mango have to be deemed to be of the lower quality and have to be sorted as such. So we want to ensure that our mango is free from defect, or even if it has defect, we want to determine whether the defect is acceptable to be marketed or not. And then we also want to learn about the type of defect that present on the mango. Either it is caused by impact damage, which is caused by the mango falling down, or mango have been impacted, or is it caused by pests, or caused by malnutrition, or not. Okay, these are some of the mango sample which is deemed to be ideal to be marketed. And then this is also a form of mango that have defect, which is not that visually appealing. So we can compare this to this together. And then in order to develop a model that can visually distinguish it, so we have to look into deep learning or machine learning techniques. So we have investigated a lot of machine learning techniques which should be fast enough and then can be implemented as quickly as possible inside embedded system. And then the size of the network should be small enough so that it would not consume too much power. And then it should be quickly enough so that it could sort thousands of mangoes during the fruiting season. So, so that's why we are looking to this model, and then decided to look into GAN. So there is also in between whether the mango is acceptable or not. So the in between. So and then we compare it with the ideal form of mangoes.
Kajisan mah lebih turu-turu kok ya lebih. Ya Allah.
Okay, the goal is that we want a model to simplify the feature extraction. So we want to also to have a model that can estimate the area of defect, and then to determine the type of defect, and then determine whether the defect is acceptable or not to be marketed. So we look back into this concept so that we can translate the satellite image into roadmap, and thus we develop this model. So we translate the photo of the mango into this 8x5 grid. So we simplify the feature representation using CGAN or pix-to-pix. So we match the mango feature to simplify grid representation, and then we train it into the conditional GAN. So until the GAN can generate an almost perfect representation of the damage. So this is what we have trained about the damage, and then the damage can be represented in the grid. So we choose this simplified grid manner because it's much more easier for the model to be post-processed. So this is a pre-process step. So we can simply count the number of affected grid in this manner, and then determine how many percentage of the area of the surface skin is affected. And then we train the mango model so that this pix-to-pix mango model can independently generate the output features like this. So this is our goal. So it could translate from this to this. So this is a form of bruises. Okay, what interesting is that by using this method, we can quickly determine the area of defect, okay, in a faster way. Because it do not involve full scale photos. So it does not involve full resolution photos. And then it is independent of resolution. even if you are using a large resolution photos, it would always translate to this 8 to 5 grid model. So anybody can immediately check for the coverage of the defect area, and then this output can be further processed further down the line of our machine learning to determine whether the defect is acceptable or not. So this is what we have done. And then interestingly, it could also determine the type of defects. For example, we can also color code the defects. Okay, for the red is a sort of pest, okay, pest attack. So when you feed type of different type of mangoes and then different type of damage, the model can immediately recognize the type of defects, okay, such as bruising or pest attack, okay, like this, and then it could determine the quadrant of damage, okay, the quadrant, and then the coverage of the damage. So, what we have learned from this model is that this is a faster way to extract features when compared to other form of object detection or segmentation model. So as we understand, there are also other type of segmentation model that we can use to segment damage. But what we have discovered that this segmentation model is slower, and then it is harder to interpret the output of the segmentation model, such as YOLO, and sometimes you have YOLO or UNet, okay, UNet, because the size can vary in this model. And then we find it hard to determine the coverage of the damage area when it is not what we call it as uniform way. Okay, it's not translated in a uniform way, in a grid manner where you can count the grid and then you can translate it into other simpler mathematical model. And then it can also identify the type of damage, okay, simple damage, whether it is a common bruising, physical damage, or impact damage, or pest attack. And then the grid that we produce or that has been produced by the conditional done can serve as a rough estimate of the fruit condition or whether the fruit is acceptable or not. So it can thus easily estimate the area of defects. And then the output of this model can be further used as input to other machine model further down the line. So this is not end-to-end model, but rather it is a pre-processing model. So you feed it to pre-process it, and then this output of the model can be fed down the line to other type of models, such as neuro-fuzzy model to determine whether the fruit grade is acceptable or not. So it could be used on further machine learning model to do other things. So this is what we have discovered. So I think that's all for for my sharing session. So this is what I'm going to share what we have learned in our research project while working on assessing the mango defect in our research grant within UiTM Perlis. So I think that's all from me. So if you have further question, I think I want to pass it back to the Madam Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Mr. Mohammad Hafiz Ismail with his knowledge sharing regarding the extracting mango features with us. I think this is a very interesting knowledge sharing and act as a new innovation in the research interest. Okay, so now we're going to move to our Q&A session. Okay, if you have any question to ask, do ask. Inshallah, our speaker will clarify the related issues. All right, we're checking for the questions. Okay, we have two questions from Ibu Bayu Adi Nugroho. All right, good morning. I have two questions. Question one, did you set a particular threshold for the discriminator so it will be able to determine the image is fake or real? For example, loss function threshold. In my understanding, the discriminator hold the ground truth of the actual image. Okay, the second question is, since you see GAN to extract mango features, have you compared the result of your work with similar deep learning method, such as variational autoencoder? All right.
Okay. Okay, for the second question, we have already compared it with the autoencoder. Okay, autoencoder is also a similar work which can take the photograph or the images and then encode it inside the neural network and then represent it in a compact way. So we have already compared it. But however, we found that the output of the autoencoder less than what we preferred than when we compared it with pix-to-pix. So in pix-to-pix, we found it that easier to produce the compact grid in order to feed it inside another model. Okay, why we have done it? Because we want to reduce the features. Okay. As almost as the autoencoder, but the features must be represented in our preset or predetermined grid, so that it could be further processed on another model down the line. So such as our negro fuzzy model down the line, so that we could determine the area of coverage of the damage. So which is very hard to do in autoencoder, because in autoencoder, the output would be produced in various ways. So sometimes the output is unpredictable, at least to us, so that the output cannot be reliably be used to feed it to another model to determine the type of the damage and then the area of the coverage.
All right.
So what was the first question again? I think I only catch it a second.
Okay, that's the answer for the questions. Okay, so we got one more question. Assalamualaikum. I would like to ask, is generative adversarial network like creating duplicate image, and how random noise become a fake image but it looks the same? By Ibu Alfi Nur Fitri Ali.
Okay. Okay, I would like to ask. Okay, generative adversarial like creating it's like creating a duplicate, how random enough can fake image but look the same. So okay, from what I can tell you, the generative adversarial network consists of two neural network. One is trying one of the network. We call it the generator, would generate, try to generate the fake image, and then it would feed it to the discriminator. And then the discriminator would tell whether the image is fake or the image is almost close to the predetermined class or almost real, as real. So, and then it will send back the data to the generator, so that the generator can improve the generation. So there is a form of generative adversarial network, we call it DC GAN, or deep convolutional generative adversarial image, that would try to generate this fake image over and over again until it could generate an image that almost as acceptable as the real image. But it's, of course, it includes certain imperfection. We call it hallucination in the general terms, that almost as look as the duplicate image that what you have said, but different in subtle way. So it still generate based on the data set that you have trained, but it's still different in certain subtle ways. So it could accidentally create a duplicate image, but at the same time, it could also create a completely new synthesized image. Right. I think that's the answer.
All right.
Mm.
Okay, so next question is from Ikhana Zulfa. I want to ask some question how to design GAN for data augmentation. Are the original Chitra is combined to get a new image? And is GAN better than classic data augmentation like we rotated, flipped the Chitra?
Okay. I'm sorry again. I'm sorry. What's the question?
Ibu Ikhana said she want to ask some question how to design GAN for data augmentation.
Oh, okay. How to design GAN for the data augmentation? So, so generative adversarial network for data augmentation. So, so in our particular research, so I'm speaking from our experience in our own research. So we actually do not design GAN in our particular research to augment the data, but instead we try to represent the data into a compact form, such as like my slide before that I shown you, that certain implementation tries to represent the data into another form. We call it pix-to-pix translation or image-to-image translation, where you supply the GAN with one image and then it tries to transform the image into another form. So we try to create the representation into a simpler form. So instead of augmenting it, we simplify the image that we try to represent it. So kita simplekan lah. We try to reduce the features, and then we reduce the parameters so that we only would select the features that are important to our model. So such as the mango damage. So we try to reduce the parameter and the coverage so that it only focus to the damage. But we do not augment the data directly. So we only use the conditional GAN to only focus it to the damage. Yeah. Hopefully that will answer the question.
So the next question from Ibu Zulfa, are the original Chitra is combined to get a new image? And is GAN better than classic data augmentation?
Okay, so like the rotated, flip the Chitra. Okay, actually is completely two different things. So data augmentation is still important, that you need to pre-process the data first. But we only use GAN to reduce the dimensionality. We do not augment the data using GAN, but we use it to reduce the dimensionality. So I understand what you are asking. You are asking whether we can use the GAN to augment the data, such as stretching it or rotate it or flipping it horizontally or vertically in order to increase the robustness of the deep convolutional neural network or deep learning, in order for it to generalize or to identify new images. But for our research, we do not use GAN for that. We only use it for dimensional reduction, or only to focus it or to highlight to certain area of the damage, And I believe that GAN are not the best tool for data augmentation, but rather that we use GAN to pre-process the data to reduce the dimensionality, to feed it to another layer of machine learning model.
Okay, so Mr. Hafiz, would you like to continue for the next question? I think we have.
It's okay if you have time. I'm okay. Yeah. I'm free.
Okay. Next from Mohammad Iqbal. Okay. Good morning, Mr. Muhammad Hafiz. I would like to ask 3 questions. Is the grid representation considered as gray image? Can we say as low dimensional data? And the second question, how do you detect the detected area on the mango become the grid representation? And the third question, do you also check for the overfitting since you seem compress the data?
Okay, this is a good question actually. So is the grid representation considered as a grayscale image or as low dimensional data? So yes, okay, we purposely use the conditional gun to generate a low dimensional representation of the photograph that we take. Okay, why low dimensionally? Because we want to excise or to throw away the unimportant features, and instead we are only going to focus on the features that we are interested, such as the damage. So we created the grid representation in order to represent the damage, and we only focus the damage. So and then we set the damage representation so that it would stand out contrast in compared to other part of the data. So so that when the damage area is represented in the low dimensional representation, it would be easier for the next step of the machine learning model to determine the percentage of the coverage area. So it would be simpler for the mathematical, other mathematical model to determine the size of the damage area because it is arranged in the grid. So we can simply calculate the percentage of the damage. So it would work in faster way in order to determine the type of damage and then the coverage of the damage. So and then for the second question, how do you detect this defected area on the mango that to become the grid representation? So this is the beauty of the fix-to-fix technique. So from the fix-to-fix technique, we fit it with the pair, training with the pair, so that we have real data or the actual photograph, and then we pair it with the desired input. So when you draw the input, and then it would produce the output, or it could be reversed. You draw the actual photo, and then it could produce the drawings, okay, the outline of the drawings. So when we develop the model, we pair these mangoes with the damage area. So the damage area, we have to pair it, and then we draw the damage area manually. So we draw it manually on 1,000 of the mango images, okay, almost 1,000 of the mango images, and then we train it with conditional gun in order for it to produce an almost perfect representation of the damage. So this is how the conditional gun would produce the damage representation in fix-to-fix in this manner. So it is just a basic fix-to-fix model. And then for the third question, do you also check for the overfitting? Of course, we have to check for the overfitting because that's why we are still collecting the mango images. So we have to train 1,000 upon 1,000 of the mango images and then map it with the damage representation. Because overfitting can still occur, especially when you do not have enough data to feed it to the discriminator and generator models. So it's still in work in progress in this area. But we've seen a lot of success, and then we have determined that this model is plausible. And this model has been practiced in other areas, such as in geoinformatic information system, where you can feed it the satellite image, and then it would produce a lower dimensional model of a road map, and so on. All right, I think that I would answer the question, hopefully.
All right, we have the last question from Ibu Arfianti. The question is, does GAN require big data, minimum 1,000, to build trained model like CNN method? Second, what is the difference between Mango model system using GAN and generate artificial data?
Okay. So the generative adversarial network would require a lot of data. So thousand upon thousand of data. So yes, you require a big data, a lot. So we have already stored hundreds upon gigabytes of data just to produce this gun. And then not only that, we also have to use a hardware to train this model. So we have to use a GPU to train the model, and then it could take about more than few days to completely train the whole models to this simple representation. So to answer the second question, what is the differences between Mango model system and using GAN and generate artificial data? Okay, the differences is that between GAN and Pix-to-Pix conditional generative adversarial network, or CGAN, is that in GAN, the generative adversarial network would produce artificial photos or synthetic photos without regards of the output. So it just produce the fake photos or synthetic photos blindly without any other input. But in our model, we use the subset of Pix-to-Pix or subset of conditional GAN to produce the simple representation of the photograph, so that from the aerial photograph, it could produce the roadmap. And then similarly, from the Mango, it could produce the grid, okay? The grid, the damage grid, or lower dimensional data of damage grid. So this is the differences. So this one is guided. So you have input of the photo, and then it produce the lower dimensional representation. And for the GAN, it is unguided. So it just produce the synthetic photos without any further input from the user or from human. So it just generate it with non-stop, and then you generate it without further guidance or output, just like that. So I think hopefully that would answer your question.
Okay, so the time is very close to the end. So I think we stop our presentation here.
Ibu
Okay, so
Rusydiyah.
thank you to Mr. Mohammad Hafiz for the enlightening speech just now, and also the clarification of the related issues. So we hope all participants are satisfied with the answer and the clarification just now. So ladies and gentlemen, we already complete the sharing of the experience, knowledge, and expertise in the research area of computer science by our speakers from UiTM Perlis. So I wish you guys have learned something new and reached the benefit and enjoy the presentations just now. And it was a pleasure to have you with us in this webinar. So until we meet again in the next international webinar, stay safe everyone. So now I pass the turn to my colleagues, Dr. Abdullah from UIN Sunan Ampel, Surabaya, Indonesia. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Dr. Rusydiyah Ahmad. Good morning, everyone. How are you? Okay, welcome back to International Research Webinar Series 1, Computer Science, presented by UIN Sunan Ampel Surabaya, Indonesia, and Universiti Teknologi Perlis Branch, Malaysia. My name is Hamid, and now I am your host for today's webinar. Before I am continue the webinar, before I am continue the webinar and invite speaker today, I have read curriculum vitae the speaker. The first is Mr. Aris Fanani M.Com, Magister Computer. He is head of Department of Mathematics, the Faculty of Science and Technology, UIN Sunan Ampel, Surabaya. His special research in PCD, pengolahan citra digital. Ya. His background education, Department of Mathematics, Diponegoro University, and Magister in Department of Information Technology in ITS Surabaya. His research many research, firstly about sosialisasi tatap muka bagi mahasiswa dalam pemilihan wali kota dan wakil wali kota Surabaya, and seminar internasional Islam Nusantara, Stadium General Penguatan Ekonomi Metropolis, peran sistem informasi dan audit sistem informasi dalam menghadapi persaingan global dan masyarakat ekonomi ASEAN, and he is a member of Apticom and DPD IKA Diponegoro University S Java. His research about now Mr. Aris Panani will present about geometric feature extraction of batik image. So Mr. Aris Panani, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hamid. Good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I think my topic is not different with Mr. Hafiz. It's about image or citra. I will sharing about my sorry. Okay, you can my voice. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, clearly.
Okay. I will sharing about my research about geometric feature extraction of batik image using cardinal spline curve representation. We know that batik is a craft that has high absolute value and has become of Indonesian culture, especially in Java. But now, not only in Java, every city in Indonesia have a motif batik. Every city in Indonesia. Etymologically, the suffix tik in the word batik is different from word drip in Indonesia is meniti or menetes. Otherwise, batik or batik is writing or drawing complex small object. In the process, using canting and in canvas or in kain ya in Indonesia, and then batik with UNESCO is an Indonesian national heritage which has been recognized as a World Heritage or World Cultural Heritage. I think in Malaysia also have batik. In the morning we saw the Rector UITM wearing the batik. Okay, the recognition batik as a world culture heritage has made batik in more famous and widely used as clothing material. Maybe in era 2000, we know who is boy band Westlife, yeah, from Irlandia, and then second, I don't know who. Maybe he didn't know that is civil servant uniform in Indonesia, Korpri, but he using batik Korpri, bule. Next, Bill Gates and Obama and Susilo Bambang Yudhoyono. This clothing material and used Indonesian people or foreign people. Batik has unique motif characteristic. The decoration batik motif are designed is through human cognitive process that represent artistic interpretation of the surrounding. Every city have a motif different. It's about cognitive process and artistic interpretation of surrounding. Okay, this kind of batik, especially batik Madura, is batik Lowongan. My research is focused in batik Madura. This is regarded as one of most interesting aspect to be studied using science and technology. And then this research is part of system for fashion design and automation, also material batik optimization. So the method to extract geometric feature is required. The extraction method, this can help a computer to recognize motif or pattern in batik image, and then extraction feature play an important role in detecting the object correctly and understanding object shape in batik or motif pattern. The feature in this context include geometric feature of the boundary. You can see the figure 1, this batik image, and in the research is divided two part. First, geometric feature of boundary, or in kelowongan in bahasa Jawa. This is this is batik and this is kelowongan or boundary of object. And the second is geometric feature of object filler. Object filler is in Javanese is called isen. This in figure 2 show that A is batik image and image B is object filler or isen. Okay. Process of feature extraction is followed after the process image segmentation. Segmentation is very important in this step to recognition the object, and then to representasi object, we many study object representation is we use a polygon approximation. Okay. This research proposed a method geometric feature extraction of the image and represented the feature as control point of cardinal spline curve. And then the proposed method is consists of three parts. First is extraction of geometric feature. The next of representation of feature using cardinal spline, and the last is reconstruction of batik image. Okay, this is methodology for how to extract of kelowongan. The first is extraction of geometric feature. First is geometric feature extraction of kelowongan. First, still in Indonesia. First is input in the system of image RGB or grayscale. If already RGB, yes, can, because next step is transform to grayscale. Okay, next step is denoising with mean filtering. Denoising is to reduce noise in image. Okay, the next step is segmentation. Yeah, segmentation in this research using thresholding based on neurotopic. The step of segmentation based on thresholding with neurotropic first is mapping and determination of the image metric T domain and F domain. T is foreground or object and F is domain. The equation like in the screen, okay, and for value A, B, C is using Xenom function. Okay, next step is enhance. Enhance is aim to improve the image of in the new domain neurotropic. The enhance process is done using intensity transformation of image. In intensity transformation image, I use equation in the screen because image in grayscale, so value of pixel 0 or range 0 and 1. Okay, the next step is thresholding. Thresholding value determined by using heuristic approach. First step by step is we determine the initial threshold on number of value image, number of intensity. Number two, separate using T0 and group to group. Number three, find mean value. We name mu1 and mu2 for each group, f1, f2, and then compute new threshold value using equation like that, and repeat step 2, drop 4. So we get value Tn min 1 is more less than mu, epsilon. And here is we using this. Okay, this is of result image batik after segmentation using thresholding based on neurotropic. We can show that this is a kelowongan, and black is a background. White is object and black is background. Okay. The next process is connected component labeling. In connected component labeling, we know that so many algorithm, any for neighborhood, X neighborhood, and combine. In this research, we use X neighborhood. So center we can show all X neighborhood. Okay, for illustration, connected component labeling first, like that. This is a number value of pixel. Okay, the step for determining first is determine pixel of the object whose value is in the top left row, and then we set direction in 7. First direction in 7. The next step transfers the 3-on-3 neighborhood. For even we use equation direction plus 7 modulo 8, and for odd we using equation direction plus 6 modulo 8. From table 1 we saw the direction of the direction and the next direction, the result in anti-clockwise direction. The first foreground pixel will be new boundary element, and we update direction. This is will stop when the current boundary element Pn is equal to the second element P1. Okay, this is illustration. First, we found object and then this value of pixel, and then this is direction, null x neighborhood. So first, transverse metric 3 on 3 from left, and then stop when found foreground. First like that. Okay, we use 3 on 3 metric for found x neighborhood. Okay, first set in 7, and then 7 is odd, so we use equation direction plus 6 modulo 8, and the result is 5. So the direction in red, yes, and then the next, because number of pixel 0 is as a foreground, so we transverse anti-clockwise. The next is 7 like this, anti-clockwise direction. So we found one is the update direction. We must update direction. So the next direction 6 as a new for egg neighborhood, and then step by step stop until current boundary element Pn is equal to second element P1. Okay, the next process is reduction of feature, shape feature. We know we use collinear removing collinear point to delete. We not save all boundary of object kelowongan, but we only save when we define threshold value of in this algorithm. In this result, we set 3, 7, and 10. Okay. Select 3 points as initial point, for example, PE, PJ, and PK, and then define threshold value DT. We can delete point PJ. We can delete PJ when the distance value D of the strength line from PI and PK. If D less than or equal dt, distance D is calculated with equation in below. Okay, and then we save. This is a sample. The spot is with we can save both. Not only coordinate we save of boundary, only collinear point. Okay. Okay. The next is extraction feature for isen. I think it's same, but there's different. Same with kelowongan. The difference is how to find isen. Isen. First, we can add detection using Kenny. Using Kenny, and then we can for find isen. We can multiple image at detection using Kenny with image thresholding from kelowongan, and then we must find connected component labeling from isen. And then the process is reduction. Reduction is same with in kelowongan, and then we save feature in database. Okay. The next for representation, but the image reconstruction of we using cardinal plane to representation. This result of geometric feature extraction of isen and kelowongan is represented in a set of domain point. This set of domain point that has been stored in database will be used as a control point like this, P0, P1, P2, and P3. In the Batik image reconstruction using cardinal plane. For one segment, P0 to P1 of cardinal plane curve is defined by 4 control points. And then this is an equation for representation using cardinal plane curve B-spline. Okay, this is a result of my research. This is image Batik, and then we using neurotopic segmentation we can found kelowongan, and then we multiple image kelowongan and shiny detection. We can found isen, and this is a result using cardinal plane for representation. Okay, and then this is experiment 2. This Batik image and this representation using cardinal plane. For object with geometry, we can find and can representation, but for Batik with abstract motif, we cannot find background isen. And then for measuring the result, we using mean square error for no quality of result. And then based on mean square error, value of reconstruct Batik image, all motif have low mean because Batik image already in RGB, although is value is 1000, it's still low. Okay, this is a conclusion. Experiment results show that the proposed system can perform geometric feature extraction of Batik, represent the feature into some control point of cardinal plane, and reconstruct the Batik image by using cardinal plane curve representation. The result shown the reconstructed image is visually similar to the original Batik, and then based on mean square error of reconstruction Batik image, all motifs have low mean square error value. Okay, thank you, Mr. Hamid.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aris Fanani. Okay, the ladies and gentlemen, please applause to Mr. Aris Fanani. Now, Q&A session. The ladies and gentlemen, you can ask questions by pressing the raise hand button on Zoom or writing chat box. Mr. Aris, in the chat box, from Mr. Airi Rahmat. From Mr. Airi Rahmat. Okay, wait.
Sorry.
How do you treasure some batik motif? This is because each batik has a certain color and motif. Mr. Aris?
Okay, sorry.
How do you treasure some batik motifs? This is because each batik has a certain color and motif.
I cannot find the question in chat, Mr. Hamid.
From Mr. Airi Rahmat, how do you treasure some batik motif? This is because each batik has a certain color and motif.
Okay. We using method neurotropic based on neurotropic threshold based on neurotropic. the threshold only black and white image. In the process, after we found a domain point, I'm sorry, I'm not presenting this. Okay. After we reduction feature, we also save information about color. So to generate, we can use color to representing to with this plan. I think so, Mr. Hamid.
Okay. The question 2 from Dr. Huzairi.
Okay. I am for object with don't have geometry motif, it cannot, Mr. Huzairi, because in process thresholding, neurotropic cannot find foreground and background, I think so, Dr. Huzairi. And then?
And the last question is from, I don't know, this research is good. How many features do you use to calculate the value of batik motif that has an RGB value?
What is the mean?
For your
What
explain.
is the calculate value of batik? Okay. In batik, we the part of batik is two. The first is kelowongan and two is isen-isen in Java. The kelowongan is object boundary and then isen-isen is a filler object. We extract reduce geometric feature extraction for shape this. And then what is S.Ag? Okay, for RGB value, control point also we save with property like color and coordinate. So coordinate for represented using Cardinal's plan, and for color we use information coordinate color. I think so, Mr. Hamid.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Haris. Thank you for your presentation about geometric feature extraction of batik image. Thank you very much.
Eka Malasari is my friend in S2 ITS.
Oh, very good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Aris. And now, secondly presenter is Mrs. Dian Chandarini Novitasari, Magister Computer. Her research about special research about computation. Her researcher and lecturer, Department of Mathematics, the Faculty of Science and Technology UIN Sunan Ampel, Surabaya. Background of education, Department of Information Technology, PENS, Surabaya, and Magister in Department of Information Technology, ITS, Surabaya, and now she is candidate doctor from Mathematics Department, Airlangga University, Surabaya. She the most is the most productive research in Department Mathematics UIN Sunan Ampel Surabaya in in 2020. Her have 8 research, and in 2020 her have 20 research and so on. Okay, please welcome Miss Dian Chandrini Novitasari. Time's yours.
Thank you for the time they gave to. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I would like to say thank you for coming to our webinar. The Excellency Rector UINSA Ampel Surabaya, Prof. Masdar Hilmy, the Excellency Rector Universiti Teknologi Madya, Perlis Branch, Prof. Dr. Khudzir, Ismail, the Honorable all speaker of the International Research Webinar Series 1 with the topic of the computer science. All of the participants, I'm glad to see you all. Okay, my name is Dian Chandrini Novitasari. I'm junior lecturer at the Mathematics Department. Today, I'd like to talk to you about our topic research about modification of deep learning to detect COVID-19. Okay, I plan to speak about 20 minutes in 3 sections. Section 1 about the COVID-19, Section 2 about the modification of deep learning, then the last, of course, the result of the classification. Okay, let's move to the Section 1. Sorry, I can. Okay, this is news in every media, local or international, is about the outbreak, the COVID-19. As we know, the outbreak caused the new variant, Delta variant. Okay, COVID almost 2 years. That has been a worldwide pandemic. It continues to be hot issue in the mass media, both locally or internationally. Then in Indonesia, surprisingly, 100,000 people died. Then this in local media, then I want to cry if I describe this. Okay, from the worldwide data, from the World Health Organization, Worldometers, this from the Worldometers, 2 million positive cases of the COVID with more than 4 million died, and 880 million have recovery. Indonesia in 14 position with more than 3 million infected cases, with death currently reaching 100,000 people died. Okay, this the daily new case. The daily new case, the spike case in the world has occurred several times. There is in December to January. December 2020 until January 2021, reaching more than 750 cases, and in March 2020 until May 2020, also reaching the 150 cases in 1 day. The high death rate also influenced by the spike in active case of COVID, with more than 15,000 in a day. So the factor is a diagnosis system. In Indonesia, in the early COVID pandemic, there is antibody test antibody test. The sample is blood. Time for the result is 5 until 10 minutes. The accuracy only is 18%. The price is 150,000 rupiah. Then the next is the PCR test, and the PCR test, the sample is nasal or nasopharynx. The time to get a result is 2 until 3 days. The accuracy in reaching the 98%, and price 900,000 rupiah. Then the next is the antigen test. The antigen test, the sample is nasal or nasopharynx. Then time is only 30 minutes. Then accuracy is 91%. The price is 250,000 rupiah. So the hospital procedural in Indonesia, you may search from kompas.com. I took from there. This is a few months ago when I was sick. I went to Mitra Hospital, Mitra Keluarga Hospital. The patient had to do an antigen test and lung X-ray for the hospitalization. This is the early check-in in hospital. Then if you have do the surgery, you must do PCR test and lung X-ray. Both inpatient and those who have a surgery, the results are also clarified with existence of the lung X-ray. Next, we will explain about the lung X-ray data that we use in this research. Okay, this is the lung X-ray data. Consists of 3 classes: normal lungs, pneumonia, and then the COVID-19. Okay, this is the normal lungs. This is the pneumonia, and this is the COVID-19. Okay, the lung X-ray data from Google and GitHub. The disease caused by the coronavirus indeed fairly similar symptoms with pneumonia, but in using our eyes, it's not. I can separately different between 3 classes. So we have COVID-19 diagnosis using deep learning. We use the CNN model from the input models to the feature learning using convolution, ReLU, pooling, and so on. It's based on the kind of the CNN models and classified with neural network after flatten and then used for the input of neural network. It has many advantages from the CNN. It's some feature learning that give a best accuracy, a high accuracy, solve the big data. Then it weekend requires high training time and computation. Then after we read some paper or articles, and we plan to use SVM to modify the CNN, no using neural network, but using the SVM, because some support vector machine have an advantage from this. One, simple model and fast computation, but support vector machine need input from feature extraction. I think a combination of the feature learning and support vector machine is can give high accuracy and low computation. This is a COVID-19 diagnosis based on lung X-ray from the first. This is a lung X-ray from the previous database. Then we resizing it to the 220, close to 220. Then we use the feature extraction from feature learning of the CNN. We use GoogleNet. We use a GoogleNet. We use ResNet 18, ResNet 50, and ResNet 101. Okay, and then we selecting feature by two models, PCA and Relief. Then we use SVM for classifying. Then classification result in three classes for normal, pneumonia, COVID-19, 2 classes for normal and COVID-19, 2 classes for pneumonia, COVID-19. Okay, this result, feature learning result from GoogleNet. Sorry, I can give all the feature learning because it very deep, very large for the image. This is from input 7x7 convolutional, max pooling convolutional, until we have good inception until 9. Then we get a global average pooling 7x7. We take the mean or average, then become 1 as much as 1024. Okay, this is a COVID diagnosis based on lung X-ray, result in 3 classes: normal, pneumonia, and COVID. This is the kind of the CNN, GoogleNet, ResNet 18, ResNet 50, and ResNet 101. We use for full cross validation, and in the SVM we use the kernel, linear kernel, polynomial kernel, Gaussian kernel, and sigmoid kernel. In its models, we try selecting feature by PCA relief, and so on. The best result is in ResNet 10 and ResNet 50 and ResNet 101. Its best result is 97%. Okay. Next, this is the graphic of the accuracy. This is the graphic of the accuracy. In the left, GoogleNet. The GoogleNet just only 93%. In the ResNet 96%. In ResNet 50 and ResNet 101, it is 70%. Okay. Although it have some accuracy in ResNet 50 and ResNet 101, but the elapsed time is the training process and the feature extraction. The CNN is 1 hour, but using the SVM, CNN, and SVM, just only 8 until 13 minutes. So it's very effective in terms of almost 55% of the elapsed time and good accuracy of the 97%. Okay, this is in the normal and COVID-19. The trial and error is the same of the before, but this is the SVM advantage is divided into 2 class. It's very good. It have 100% of the accuracy. Then average in linear kernel it's 98%. So SVM is based in two classification. It's pneumonia and COVID. It's the same, just 100 accuracy. Then this is the paper, the article of the our research. This is our article in collaboration with Taiwan, Prof. Rezi and Prof. Chen. Very pleasure if this article used for reference. We also hope for research collaboration with UITM, Perlis Malaysia for the next project. Okay, summarize in this research, we modification of the deep learning to of the feature learning on the CNN using GoogleNet and ResNet, and support vector machine which aim to produce high accuracy and fast computation time. Feature learning in ResNet 50 is more valuable because the high accuracy than the GoogleNet and ResNet 80, and it needs elapsed time few elapsed time than ResNet 101, even though it gives the same accuracy of 97%. And SVM keep the best accuracy classes in 100, both from the normal and COVID, and pneumonia and COVID using linear analysis. So that is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much, and I return it back to moderator.
Okay, thank you very much. Applause for Miss Dian Sandra-Arini. Okay, the ladies and gentlemen, now Q&A session. The ladies and gentlemen, you can ask questions by pressing the raise hand or the tab of the box. Okay. The firstly from Mr. Bayu Adinugraha. Good morning. This is an interesting topic from Miss Sandrarini during the pandemic. This is the results are superb and amazing. However, the results are reported under private dataset. Also, the code is kept privately, which is hard for public audience to use and verify the report results. Most common method is to share the URL for both the dataset and the code written in the published manuscript. How can we reproduce and verify the results? Ms. Dian?
This data is from the Kaggle, and this is a second data, yes, from the Kaggle and the GitHub. We don't know about the data from where, but it's in the database. It's described that it's from the China in the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic. How can we produce and verify the result? We just in our paper or our article, just trying to modification of the SVM and the feature learning of the CNN, not the data, but it's very in the many papers do the same. It's from our it's our answer, Dr. Abdul Hamid.
Okay, Mr. Bayu, enough? Okay, I think enough. This is from the question from Muhammad Iqbal. Hey, Ms. Dian, I would like to ask, the results seem surprisingly linear SVM have with the nonlinear ones. Could you give a brief explanation towards the representation image after extract from DL? Hello, Ms. Dian?
Yes. Okay.
The second, Are you read? Second question from Mr. Muhammad Iqbal.
Okay, Mr. Iqbal, thank you for the question. Great question. In the first time we do the research, it for just only 200 data from the database. Then I would like to ask the results in surprisingly linear SVM with the non-linear ones. Okay, maybe in our research just only 200 data and no augmentation, because the research is very early in a pandemic, in pandemic. Then the accuracy is best, but if we augmented the data, maybe it more high accuracy. But in our research, it is only 200 data. In another research, we use under the 10,000 data. It still fit for the classification, but we do not try if the data more than 10,000 data. Okay.
Okay, and the last question from Anissa. Assalamualaikum, my name is Anissa. What is the concept of featured learning in deep learning? From the results, more layer, the smaller the size of the feature map. Thanks, Miss Yan.
Okay, my name is Anissa. Of the feature learning in deep learning. Okay, feature learning in deep learning. Anissa, as we know, she is our student. Then will be master degree in Informatika ITS. Okay, Anissa, thank you for the great question. Feature learning in deep learning. Okay, feature learning in deep learning. As we know, we from the first image, we divide it to the red, green, blue. Then we use the kernel for the weight, and then use for the learn. Okay. Maybe Anissa can get the answer more deeper in the back of the this acara ya.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Tian. The ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your attention. This is our International Research Webinar Series 1. This morning about computer science. Don't forget to the next webinar. And the ladies and gentlemen, the certificate will be sent to your email after webinar. And from Commit have some door prize to active participant. Thank you for your attention. In the last, I will from John C. Maxwell's side, if people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thank you very much. I am Abdullah Hamid, the moderator from this webinar. Wal afu minkum. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Time return to Master of Ceremony, Mrs. Junior, time's yours.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hamid and Ibu Rusita. Ladies and gentlemen, finally we have come to the end of this event. We would like to thank to all speakers, Associate Professor Dr. Suhor Sanim, Dr. Muhammad Hafiz Ismail, Aris Fanani M.Com, and Dian Cerini M.Com. and all moderators, Dr. Rusydiyah Ahmad and Dr. Abdullah Hamid, and of course, all participants of this event. I am Junior Farida as Master of Ceremony. I apologize if there is an error in guiding this event. Let's close this webinar with a prayer kafaratul majlis. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika asyhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. See you in the next webinar series. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for all.